Luka turns on the waterworks before working over the Dallas Mavericks in front of a very supportive crowd. The Spurs play spoiler in a West playoff picture that is anything but settled. And Nikola Jokic pulls out the clipboard and plays coach. But how long will he play for the Nuggets? That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories every day with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts. From the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network, he's our man of 1,000 podcast. It's Matt Moore. Matt, we've got some news out of Denver that broke shortly before we started taping. Chris Haynes reporting that Nuggets owner Josh Kroenke will serve as interim president of basketball operations. A thorough general manager search is expected in the offseason. Chances that thorough search reveals Josh Kroenke as the candidate best suited for the job.
No, because he's got Arsenal and he's got the Rams and he's got the Mammoth and he's got the Rapids and he's got the Avalanche. So there's too much on Josh's plate for him to do so. I would say that this is more of cleaning out the remainder of what is left in Denver, which is unfortunate because there's some really good people there. And it does mean that you're going to see a new regime completely built this summer in the front office.
And we are going to talk about later in the show what all of that means for the future of Nikola Jokic in Denver. Also joining us is a man that knows all about weird team management from the Locked On Bulls podcast, the Prince of Petty. It's Hayes.
Yeah, I know a lot about weird team management, but that team that's being managed pretty weird, they rested their players and ended up working out for us. We're the 9th seed right now in the Eastern Conference, so there's that.
All right, there's your Eastern Conference talk for the show because most of our focus is going to be out west, and we start with Luka Doncic returning to Dallas. He dropped 45 points, 31 of those in the first half in his return after a lot of emotional pregame festivities that included T-shirts, hugs, tribute videos. How did all of the pomp and circumstance around this return hit you, Matt?
I mean, it's sad. I'm heartbroken for Mavs fans having to watch Luka crying, sitting there watching the tribute video. It was just really hard. And him afterwards being like, this is really special here. I'll always love this city, but it's time to move on. That's devastating. Like, I just felt for the fans. With Luka, I think I've compared it this way. Like, imagine you had your dream job out of college and it was everything you wanted, but you were young and you didn't know better. And so you were late for meetings and you forgot to give one of your colleagues the key speaker notes in front of the board. And like all of these little mistakes happened. Now your performance was awesome and everything looked great. Your returnings, your earnings, all of the things that you're measured by in terms of objective success were great, but your professionalism was really lacking. And so you're fired and you're hired immediately by a better firm that make more money. You get a promotion. But you're always got to look at that. That was your dream job that you lost. That was the first thing that you had really loved. And that's going to be really hard to go back to and be sad that it was over, regardless of who it was for. And you could say that he should have never been fired. And I understand why you feel that way. But that to me was kind of like the feeling of it, where it's like, Luka bears some responsibility, even if that trade should have never, ever, ever happened, if for no other reason than the fans, Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, there's responsibility to go all around, but that moment, I mean, everything getting to Luka, like seeing Luka tear up, like you got to remember that there's a human element behind all of this, right? Like, and sometimes it's easy to forget that. We're just talking about these guys doing their job and things like that, and that's what that moment reminds you of. Like, he has still, I mean, it hasn't even been 2-3 months yet, so he's still dealing with his feelings over everything that he did for Dallas, did in Dallas, and so that moment. It got to him and it got to a lot of people. And so it was really good to see that human moment from Luka Doncic.
There was a lot of talk about closure after that game. I'm not sure how much closure there actually is. I think we'll have to see that in the years to come. It's National Siblings Day today. I don't know if you knew that, so it's only fitting that we hear from the Kamenetsky brothers of Locked On Lakers on Luka's big night.
JJ Redick, I think, was not overstating it when he said what Luka ultimately did tonight was superhuman. I mean, it was pretty impressive. I mean, like, to go from that to torching, like just instantly locking in. But I think there was an element of everybody wanting to be a part of enabling Luka to just crush these guys. And it took everybody, I think, out of balance for a lot of the first half. And then they really settled in the fourth quarter, knowing that I think Luka's happy to be here, but this wasn't what Luka was looking for. And the idea of, we've got this superstar, but we also need to make him comfortable. I think, and we have to show him that he really is one of us. Like, there are ways that can be a catalyzing force for chemistry among these guys as well. And again, sometimes you can't plan for it. Sometimes you can't manufacture it. It just happens.
Hayes, is this a moment? Is this a game that we're going to look back on if the Lakers manage to make a run in this playoffs, if they knock on the door of a finals appearance? Are we going to look back as at this moment as like, hey, this was the start of them coming together fully as a team?
Absolutely. I think you definitely will. When the whole ESPN 30 for 30 on Luka Doncic trade comes down, however many years from now, like that is,
it might be a 60 for 60.
60 for 60, yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's definitely going to be that moment, and hopefully that this is something that can push the Lakers to go on the playoff run. I still have my doubts just because of the roster. It is what it is there, but if they do, if they go on a Western Conference Finals run or anything like that, like, best believe this, you're going to look back on this moment and be what really brought a team together.
I think it was really great for them to do that for him, to be like, we want to be there for you. Like, that's the kind of team stuff that I think gets lost in the NBA a lot of time, and it's like, it just makes me happy that stuff still exists. Like, this game's important to you. Yeah, it's back-to-back. Yeah, it's game 79. Yeah, we're probably going to make a playoffs, but like, this game's important to you. I'm with you. Stuff matters, man. Like, I just think that stuff really matters. So yeah, I think it can. I'll say this. Maybe this is a big take. I think they're making the finals. I think they're making the finals. And that's based off of a lot of evidence, but stuff like this helps. I think that, in part, I think JJ Redick's building the right chemistry. I think he's building the right culture there. I have real skepticism about the Lakers front office, but I think that JJ Redick's building the right culture there. And I think that LeBron is shifting into a role where he can be the most effective that he can be with the fewest amount of drawbacks. So yeah, I think this could definitely be a moment that Luka looks back on as something that lifted him. Again, good job, Nico Harrison. Well done.
Now, do you think, let me follow up on your Lakers finals take. Do you feel like that in your mind, is that a scenario where the Thunder trip and fall before they get to the conference finals? Or do you think that the Lakers have what it takes? Do they have some advantage that they could expose against the Thunder in a 7-game series?
Both. I worry about this matchup. I worry about the ability of Luka to really detonate what the Thunder want to do defensively. I worry about his ability to hit the cross-court pass, which is something that a lot of their scheme is built on. Very few players can make this pass well enough to beat us. Luka can. I worry about the switching defense and the zone coverage behind him to help on drives with Shea. I worry about the 3-point shooting of Lou Dort and Cason Wallace and Alex Caruso in particular. I worry about what the foul rate's going to be for a Los Angeles Lakers team with Luka Doncic, who is they've been a historically high free throw team over the last 5 years, and now they got Luka. The Thunder have an extremely high foul rate. I worry about the narrative of the NBA, where it's like, I can tell you about the X and O's and all of the details, but there's also one fact: the arc of NBA history bends towards the Lakers. So all of those factors play into why I think that the Lakers are making the finals.
Hayes, are Matt's worries warranted, or do you think the Thunder will have all of the answers to those questions?
No, I mean, it is warranted. And I mean, I think they can figure it out, but I don't think they're going to come in and just have the Lakers 100% where it's never a problem. Like, they're going to have to figure that out as the series goes on, if it gets to that point. I don't have the Lakers going in the finals, but nothing that Matt said is off basis here. Like, the Thunder have problems. The Thunder they do bleed. And so, people acting like the Thunder are like this team that just cannot be beaten. No, they can be beaten. You just got to have the right strategy and the right matchups, and maybe the Lakers are going to be that team that can exploit it.
They cry, they bleed, all kinds of human fluids. Coming up on the Locked On NBA podcast, I want to shift gears. What? I want to shift gears over to the Mavericks perspective on all of this. We heard the Fire Nico chants careening back and forth through the Mavericks arena. We heard it over the broadcast. Will this cause the Dallas Mavericks to overreact possibly this coming off season? That's what I'll ask Matt and Hayes coming up on Locked On NBA. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes used to be waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, and then wondering, and then worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so that you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also that you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Baseball season, it's in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. Here's how it works. With Prize Picks, you just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, Prize Picks makes every game more exciting. This week, you can lock in Aaron Judge for more than 1 home run. I mean, that's a pretty good one. He likes to hammer him. Even though he doesn't use the torpedo bats, he can still hammer him. And Shohei Ohtani for more than 1 stolen base. It's that easy. Setting up your lineup takes less than 60 seconds, and when you win, payouts are fast, safe, and secure. And don't miss Taco Tuesday. Prize Picks gives you discounts on select player projections for even more value. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Maybe it's your first watch on YouTube at youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. So we're not done talking about Luka's return to Dallas. I want to shift the perspective over to the home team, who seem to be cheering for the road team for most of the game and jeering the team general manager, Nico Harrison. Here's Locked On Mavericks with more.
I think this finally gave Mavericks fans, and hopefully Luka himself, some closure on this whole thing, this whole saga, because it's been drawn out to this point. And we saw Luka for the tribute video. The emotions came out. Maybe that was the first time he's felt those emotions. We got to hear them chant Fire Nico. We got to hear them cheer for Luka when he checked out for the final time. They finally felt like there was at least a moment where there's some catharsis and some closure for both sides for however you felt about this trade.
Nico, was it worth it? And that's the one question I would just love to ask Nico, especially after tonight. You have so many fans that hate you, that are chanting for you to be fired from your job, to see this sports icon in Dallas cry, like legit cry, not a tear up, not a little like, oh, is his lip quivering? No, legit crying.
This solidified to me, this game, everything that happened tonight, that Mavericks fans as a whole will never forgive Nico Harrison and Patrick Dumont for what they did.
All right, does all of this put more pressure on Nico to go out and make moves to ensure the Mavs are contenders next season? And could that possibly sort of force themselves into an overcorrection or a wrong move, Matt?
I'm sorry. Are you asking me if they could force them into a wrong move after they traded Luka Doncic?
Oh, no, sorry, another wrong move. I guess
look,
would be the better way to phrase it.
I'm willing to go on a limb here. They're doomed. They were doomed the minute Nico Harrison walked into that coffee shop. They were doomed. The Mavs were doomed the minute they hired somebody with any sort of ties to the Los Angeles Lakers. They were doomed. I don't see any way. Kyrie's out until at least March of next year. At least March. Would you be surprised if he missed the whole season? I wouldn't. I would not at all. And then by that time, Davis is 36? It's done. There's no way you can go get KD. KD's up there too. You're not going to have your guys, man. It's not happening. The Mavericks are not winning the title. The Mavericks are going to slide into irrelevance and not have their picks. There is the worst of worst case scenarios is this, Hayes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you weren't done. This is a terrible.
I thought it was. Yeah, hold on. I thought it was a this colon as well.
Yeah, I thought it was like something was coming after that. But
that was a waving waving the hands around everything and going this.
But no, this is a worst case scenario of a lot that can happen. I don't know what the Dallas Mavericks do from here. And if Luka goes on to have the success that he can have in Los Angeles, it just makes this look even worse. Like, you know, the Kyrie injury is its own separate thing. AD, him being injury prone and everything like that. Like, I do think there's a version of this where the Dallas Mavericks can have a solid playoff team, but who knows if that's going to happen. You had the guy there. You had the guy who was a perennial MVP candidate. You had the guy that was entering his prime that should have been what you were building around. It just seems like such a hard shift to something else. So hearing that, you know, Kroenke's coming in, he's going to, you know, be the guy. Cool. All that's great. But like, you know, and that's the difference. I'm mixing up Denver now. But when it comes to Dallas, like, it's just, who knows what's going to happen, man.
All right, let's zoom out and talk about the West playoff picture. The Dallas Mavericks are in it. They have clinched a play-in berth. It was already nuts before the San Antonio Spurs started playing spoiler. They dropped the Nuggets a week ago, and last night, Harrison Barnes hits a three-pointer as time expired to down the Warriors. Here's a Locked On Warriors crew who look a little too used to talking about inexplicable losses.
Second night of a back-to-back, end of a long season, bunch of 35-plus-year-olds. I get it. But you cannot lose that game. How many times this year have they lost it? This is the second time this year they've lost a game to the Spurs, where we had to come on here and say you cannot lose that game. But nights like tonight have happened way too many times this year. And, like, if someone is going to watch this team and say you're not a serious playoff team if you have a performance like that in a situation like this, it's hard for me to argue.
All right, before we get into Warriors talk, Matt, update us. You've been sort of the person keeping track of all of these tiebreakers, at least in my inbox. So update us on the major tiebreaker situations. What should we be watching tonight as it pertains to the Western Conference playoff race?
We are fully in It's Always Sunny meme territory where I need the whiteboard. I need the big board behind me. Okay. So the Warriors have tiebreaker over the Wolves, but they lose it in situations in which they also tie with the Clippers and Grizzlies. So it depends on who winds up where. What I will tell you and try and simplify it for you is this. The biggest games tonight are the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Memphis Grizzlies. That's the biggest game on the slate as it refers to all these type of things. The Warriors are going to want the Wolves to win that game because they don't want the Grizzlies involved in a tie with Minnesota. They'll get the edge there. There's a possibility of the Warriors finishing fourth. There's a possibility of the Warriors finishing eighth. There's a possibility of every single one of these teams can finish between fourth and eighth. The Lakers have locked a playoff spot. They're not going to be any lower than 6. They can still drop to 6 depending on what happens, though. Their big advantage is that they're going to win the division. And any multi-team tie, the Lakers go ahead. The most likely outcome is Lakers 3. The second most likely outcome, I believe, is probably Grizzlies 8 because they have to face the Wolves and then the Nuggets. Or the Nuggets, no, the Wolves and then the Nuggets on a back-to-back, by the way, in altitude. Thanks, NBA. That, to me, is like are the most likely outcomes. Everything 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know. The Nuggets have a lot of advantages built with where they're at on tiebreaker. The one thing they don't want is the Wolves involved because they went 0-4 against them. So all of these teams have squads that they don't want involved in multi-team ties, not because they lose one spot. They can drop 4 if they're in the wrong combination. So that's going to be the determining factor here. That loss last night by the Golden State Warriors was catastrophic for their hopes of getting home court in the first round.
Yeah, it was insane. Hayes, do you have all that? Did you get all that from Matt? You got this figured out now?
We're close. We're close.
All right, let me ask this. If the Warriors stay in the play-in, are they in danger of being play out? Like, do you think they can survive a play-in, or would you be betting against them not to get a playoff series?
even if they do fall to the plane, I will trust that the Warriors can get out of that. I think that they, the veterans that they have, the coaching, I think that they can get out. It's playing with fire, but at this point, like everything's playing with fire in the Western Conference. Like the play-in alone in both conferences is going to be so interesting to watch because we know who's going to be in it in the East, but in the West, like it could be so important to the seeding. We keep talking about how important seeding is for a lot of these teams. Every team has a matchup to what Matt said that they don't want, especially in the first round. And so when it comes to the Warriors, I feel confident they can get out the play-in just because of who they have there and what their history is in the playoffs, but it's not guaranteed. Go ahead, Matt.
The Warriors, there's only like a handful of scenarios where they land in 8, and in 8 tries, no 7 seed has ever failed to make the playoffs. So like the Warriors are almost definitely going to make it. It's just a matter of like where they wind up. And I will tell you a lot of the permutations I've done on these tiebreaker situations do in fact result with a matchup between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors.
It would be very interesting to see a Warriors Grizzlies play in for your life, because those are two teams that just constantly have backbreaking turnovers at end of games. So it would just be a battle of backbreaking turnovers. I don't know if it's possible, but a Denver Grizzlies matchup would be fun. A battle between two teams who fired their coach right before the postseason. I don't know if that's even possible, but that would be an interesting storyline to watch as well. Speaking of that, I want to talk more about the situation in Denver as they fired their head coach, Mike Malone, right before the playoffs. What does it mean for Nikola Jokic's future? That's coming up. Plus, we know for sure that the Phoenix Suns are not going to be in the postseason. What does that mean for the future of that roster, including Kevin Durant? All that ahead on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. Only a few games left, but let me tell you, this is a dangerous spot for random players to drop 50, so watch out. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. After one of those epic 50-point performances, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot, delivered straight to your door. Need a quick and easy lunch the next day? Dash Pass gets you your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save when any player scores 50 or more in a game. Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Nikola Jokic asked about Mike Malone's firing after a Denver win over the Sacramento Kings last night. He said, quote, "I knew a little bit before everybody," and Josh Kroenke, mentioning Josh Kroenke here, he told me we made a decision, so it was not a discussion, it was a decision, and he told me why, so I listened and I accept it. Matt, if Nikola Jokic had told Josh Kroenke during that meeting not to fire Mike Malone, would it have made a difference?
Yeah. Jokic is the most important player in franchise history. He's the most important player. He's one of the most important players ever in the city of Denver's professional sports. It's like him, John Elway, and Patrick Waugh. Like, that's it. I don't think that he would ever be asked because of, one, the way the Kroenkes conduct business, and two, their awareness of how Nikola Jokic approaches things. But if he was ever consulted, if he had offered in that, hey, you don't need to make any sort of changes. We don't need to fire anybody. But I will tell you, like, that when that call was made, the decision was already made. Like, it was done. Wheels were already in motion. So nothing would have changed when he was informed of that decision. There were conversations with Jokic that never included the question, do you want us to fire Michael Malone? Are you okay with us firing Michael Malone? Those questions, to my understanding, to the best of my understanding from talking to a lot of people and being like, are you sure? Is that those questions were never asked. And Jokic never offered an opinion on the subject. So this is kind of the idea that Nuggets fans have, which is if Jokic had offered in those conversations, hey, don't blame coach, this isn't on him, it's on us, then yeah, Malone's probably still here, and that didn't happen. And that's almost tacit approval. That's kind of the best perspective that I can offer on it. I can just tell you that that this is how Jokic was always going to respond, which is this is a business, this is how the stuff goes, and my boss made a decision, and I will accept it.
Hayes, Nikola Jokic will become eligible to sign a 3-year, $212 million contract extension with the Nuggets this offseason. Jokic currently has 3 seasons remaining on his contract, with the 27-28 season being a player option. Should Nikola Jokic just forego all of those extensions talks and say, look, this is too crazy for me, I would like a trade? Should he do that? Should he ask for a trade in the offseason?
No, I don't think he should. I think he should give a chance for whoever the new GM is and the new direction that they choose to see where it goes, to see how what they do to rebuild the team around him, to retool, I guess is the better word than rebuild the team, and try to get back to the place where you're one of the top teams in the Western Conference consistently. You're a championship contender. I think that, and Jokic isn't the type of player that I don't get the feeling from it would request a trade. So I think he'll give that chance. And then if something happens to where the Denver Nuggets still aren't being competitive at enough, then maybe you make that decision at this time. But you still have years left on your contract. They'll give you any extension that you want if it comes down to it. So I think wait it out, see what they're going to do, see what the new vision of this team is for whoever the new GM and the coach is, and what their plan is. And then after that, maybe after next season is when you start maybe thinking about getting out of there if it just seems like it's not going to go anywhere.
I don't think Joker's going anywhere. I think that the idea of moving is too much of a hassle to him. That's legitimately why I don't think he'll ever do it. Is he'd just be like, to deal with new people and like get used to new stuff, and we have to buy a new house. And so that's personally my opinion. Is I don't think Joker ever leaves, but I will also say he is not the bright, plucky kid that I covered when he was a rookie or the second year. Like, he's a professional. He's a businessman that wears $10,000 suits, and he is looking out for his career. So I will never say that a thing in the NBA is impossible. Not after this year.
Okay, let me turn the question around then, Matt. Let's take what you think he would do out of it and just tell me, do you think he should ask for a trade? Do you think that Denver has done enough to put a team around him that could repeat the championship success from a couple of seasons ago?
I mean, they won a title. They were a fourth quarter away from probably winning the title last year. I think they beat the Celtics if they win that game 7 versus the Wolves. I think they trounced the Mavericks. And I think they beat the Celtics in 6. So that everything changes if they hold on in game 7. And there's a lot of things that led to that moment. I mean, look, you can do it. You can go do the thing everyone else does and go to LA and be a star with Luka and do that. But being what he means to Denver is different and special. And that's why Luka was crying last night, is he doesn't get to be that. And the opportunity to be that for Denver, I think, is different and special. And he's built a lot of roots here. And this also is the franchise that believed in him. And I think that on some level, he'll reward that loyalty. So I would just stay, because I think that they do have the capacity to build a championship team around him again.
Let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. Hit us up in the comments. Moving on, the Phoenix Suns took their 8th straight loss and were officially eliminated from the postseason last night, ending a season that was as mysterious as it was excruciating for a team whose expectations were as large as their payroll. Where did it all go wrong? That was the topic on Locked On Suns today.
For me, a lot of this broke down when whatever happened with Jusuf Nurkic happened. Whether that was in training camp, him and Bud not getting off to the right foot, their center rotation went to crap. And when their center rotation went to crap, the defense had no chance of even being average. There was something to be said for the fact that the Jimmy cloud, it might have extinguished any chance that they had mentality-wise from fixing it. I'm not going to say that it was broken before that, which is why they were exploring it, in my opinion. Bradley Beal's going to the bench, like you mentioned.
I think Bradley Beal is a prime suspect for why this season fell when it did. So the Jimmy Butler stuff, I think he felt disrespected, and it ruined everything.
This feels like a game of Clue. Was it Bradley Beal with the lead pipe in the library, or was it Jimmy Butler? Hayes, who did this to the Phoenix Suns, or did they do it to themselves?
They did it to themselves on June 2023, when they decided to trade for Bradley Beal. They doomed the future of their franchise. I still don't understand why they thought not having a point guard for those guys that are all scorers was ever going to work. This thing was never going to go where they needed to go. Are they talented? Yeah. Was there a period of time where it looked like they were going to be at least a decent team in the West? Yeah, but even though I didn't see it crashing and burning this bad, this thing was never going to work. It was never going to work stylistically. It was never going to work roster-wise. It was never going to work between these three players. Like, there's no defense on this team. This is why roster construction is hugely important. You think you could just throw big-name stars at everything and it work out, and it can't happen. You have to have a support system there. You have to have the right role players. You have to have the right coaching. This thing was doomed from the moment they made that Bradley Beal trade, in my opinion.
You know, Bradley Beal led the league in scoring like 3 years ago. Like, that's the thing that happened, or it was right until the last game when Steph passed him. Yeah, I agree with Hayes. I think that was like the moment. An indicator is Beal had other opportunities to get traded and go somewhere else, and always passed on it to get more money from the Wizards. Pay attention to those kind of decisions. I don't begrudge a player for getting his money. Go get your money. Absolutely. You have one career shelf life of about 15 years. Make as much as you can. Never going to begrudge a guy. But that's a decision that has impacts on your ability to win. And when you choose those, that reveals something about what your priorities are. I still think it's a little shocking that this team was as bad as it was. And I think that you've got to really examine what the rot was and try and fix that. Because I don't think it was just Beal. I don't. It can't. No one. We've had cancers on other teams that have won titles. Like, can't be that. It can't just be Brad. There's a bigger problem here that the Suns are going to have to really get into the plumbing to root out that problem and try and get themselves back to contention.
Is there an argument to be made that they didn't play hard enough ball with Bradley Beal over the no trade clause? There was it seemed like the reporting was that there was very little communication over it between the team and Beal. They did the benching thing, but he was still a part of the team. Should they have just gone to Bradley Beal and say, look, we want to trade you? He says, no, I don't want to be traded. And they say, fine, you're not going to play again here, so just don't play, and see if that moved his decision or not. Or would it not have mattered, do you think?
I mean, if he's stubborn enough not to waive the no trade clause, I mean, telling the guy you're gonna pay them to send him home because it's not like he's refusing to play. I don't know if that really moves the needle there.
Yeah, I don't think it helps at all. I don't think anybody wanted to take the money because look at the CBA. Like, again, we come back to this. You can't trade for these types of deals. You can't import that kind of cancer on your cap sheet.
All right, let's move on to our storyline draft. We are drafting round by round the top storylines from the NBA season. Maybe Jimmy Butler's whispers to Phoenix and that whole debacle will make round 4. Hasn't shown up yet. Let's go to Matt Moore for the 10th overall selection. This will be the top 10 storyline, according to us, for the NBA season. Matt, what you got?
LeBron James being this amazing at this point in his career, 40 years old and absolutely still a dominant player on a lot of nights, being the second best player on a team that's going to wind up third probably in the Western Conference, having so many nights where he's taken over. And yeah, he's had some real low dips because that's what happens as you get older. But to me, LeBron still being this guy at this point, this many years in, is an incredible story. And it's worthy of my slot here.
It's insane. Hayes, what you got for the 11th pick?
11th pick for me, shout out to Kuka Hill, the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
The story of them, what the Detroit Pistons have done this year, going from where they were last season, the Monty Williams thing. You had a time where Killian Hayes was starting over Jaden Ivey for a large part of the season, like to where the Detroit Pistons are now, adding a couple of the veterans, belief in the actual young players that they have here, them stepping up, Cade Cunningham becoming a star before our eyes, and then to get to a 43-win season, their top 6 team in the Eastern Conference. The story of the Detroit Pistons is exactly why you bet on your young players, you create the right environment, have the right veterans around them, and just let them develop. And so that's the storyline I'm picking here, the Detroit Pistons.
With the 12th pick, I telegraphed this in the last episode. I promised I would not let the Cavaliers fall out of round 4 in this draft. They start the year. Well, first of all, they swap coaches, and then they start the year 15-0. They set a non-LeBron James franchise record for wins. They clinched the number 1 overall seed in the Eastern Conference. The Cavaliers and what they've been able to do this season has been nothing short of amazing, and they deserve to be one of the top storylines for sure. It hasn't been the most interesting, but it has been one of the most, I would say, I don't want to say stunning, but man, when you swap your head coach and you come out like you come out, when you don't make too many roster moves, that is surprising. Maybe it hasn't been one of the most interesting, but it's been one of the most surprising for me for sure.
I agree. Well said.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. Thanks to Matt and Hayes for their expertise as always. Make sure you're subscribed to us wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Throw us a like, throw us a comment. We always love to hear what you think about the episodes. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow to wrap up the week on Locked On NBA.